What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by the champion of the world, the Invicta strawweight champion, Danni McCormack, before her first defence of the title this Saturday night in a rematch against Karolina Wojcik. Maybe a little known rematch against Karolina Wojcik. I don't know if many people know about it, but Danni, thank you very much for joining me. It must be great every time you're introduced now to be introduced as the champion of the world. That must never get old, does it?
I think you should wake me up in the morning.
The alarm clock. I'll send you the audio clip. You can just set it to your alarm clock every morning. But how must that have felt like that night? We spoke just before and we haven't spoke since on this show about that. It must have been just an epic night, an epic feeling to reach that place in MMA that, like, the last time we talked, you obviously came from the horse racing scene and transitioned over to MMA later, I suppose, than maybe a lot of people these days would. But to reach that stage, it must have been absolutely unbelievable for you.
Yeah, it was crazy feeling. Like, the way the fight went, it was, it was even harder to process, because I was trying to process the fact that I was still in the fight, and then I won the fight, and then she put a belt around my waist, and I had this belt now, and now I'm the world champion. It was like, I was definitely in shock about it all. But a few hours later, it started to sink in, and it's something that makes me happy every day. Like, it really does. I'm very proud of it. And it's surreal. Like, I always wanted it to happen, and all during the camp I was like, oh my God, can you imagine? But then when the oh my God, could you imagine comes to real life, it's just crazy. Yeah, it's just mad feeling.
It's mad, because just to talk about that fight for a minute before we maybe move on to what's next. Like, you said to me straight out on this show, that's what's going to happen in that fight. You're going to have to get into a war. You're going to have to take a lot of shots to win the fight. Was that almost a good thing that you knew that was the way you had to win it beforehand, because you were prepared for it, you were ready for it, you were almost, you were ready to get hurt, you were ready to get into a war, and maybe she wasn't, kind of. Did that... like, just mentally, we maybe talk about physically in a second, but mentally, did that help you?
Yeah, like, I knew it was going to go the distance, which I probably, if I had told myself before the fight, try get a finish, maybe I'd be in the UFC now. But I had told myself the whole lead up, and like, so had my corner as well, like, this is going to be 25 minutes of Marab pace, and you're not going to stop, and at the end you're going to be the winner. And that's literally all you have to do. Just don't stop going, don't stop shooting, don't stop making her tired, and you will win. So I was fully prepared, and like, I even said to myself when I was about to walk out, I felt like, I might get a bit nervous now thinking about this. And then I just said to myself, I was like, this next 25 minutes is going to make me a 10 times better person than I am right now. That when I come back here, I'm going to be different than I was when I'm going out here now. And no matter what happens, if I try my best for 25 minutes, this is going to make me, like, this is what I want. So I wanted it. I wanted the hardship. I was prepared and totally expecting it to be as hard as it was. So yeah, that was definitely gave me the mental edge. That the minute I got up off the ground in the first round, I was like, I fucking got you now. Like, I felt so confident, because I wasn't surprised at where we were at that point.
And the physical part of it, then, like, to be hurt like that, it must be insane to be in a fight like that. And like, it's the weird thing about that fight is, like, she hurt you early, and then you kind of came into the fight and took it over. But the damage that was done early kind of got worse on your face. Your eye and your face was swelling up. So even if she wasn't doing a whole lot of damage, the damage she had already done was kind of getting worse. How tough was that to just, like, because we started to say it like Rory McDonald. It wasn't maybe as bad as Rory McDonald in terms of you kind of took over the fight and he didn't against Robbie Lawler, but like, it felt a bit like a fight like that where the damage was almost getting so bad that it might stop you from doing what you were doing. Was there any, like, did you think of that in the middle of the fight that, geez, I'm very badly damaged here, or was it just go all the time?
Yeah, did you see Edson Barboza there at the weekend?
Yeah.
Did you see his face when he got back to the corner in the first round?
Yes.
I was like, oh God, I know how you feel. Yeah, and his was worse than mine, like, definitely. But you know what? I definitely didn't feel any pain. I don't think there's any pain when you're fighting. There's like shock and like, oh Jesus, what was that? But I don't think you really feel pain. But the blood from my broken nose was running down into my mouth, and that I had to keep swallowing it. And then I get back to my corner and I was trying to spit it out. So I had difficulties breathing. That was more it. So there was blood either down the front of my nose or down the back of my throat. And it was just really uncomfortable and annoying. And then I suppose apart from that, it was that every time I got hit after that initial first shot, every shot I felt like I was easier wobble, or it was harder to keep my bearings and to keep my balance and my equilibrium. So you are aware that, like, even then they might hit you with a jab or something, and like you're still like, oh, you're a bit stunned by it. So you can't really get out of that being stunned for the rest of the fight, because I suppose you're in concussion at that point. So yeah, that's kind of the thing that worries you. You're like, oh God, I better not get hit with a simple shot now, could put me down. Like, I have to be careful.
That's just crazy to someone like me. I'd be like, no, I'd be going onto the ground tapping out like it's absolutely insane to come through a fight like that. Was amazing. How long does it take you to physically recover from that? Like, is this like a month-long process to get better from a fight? And even a fight you win, I'm sure it was a similar thing for her, but how long does it take to recover from that to where you're back to normal?
Well, like, basically just go out and put your head in a bucket of ice for a week. I know, you know what, I do have tips on this now. You should take anti-inflammatories. That was the first one I ever did that, because the hospital gave me anti-inflammatories, and that worked to treat, like, in a few days my face was going down. So, like, everyone knows to take arnica and ice and all that, and take it easy, like, try sleep upright as well, try and get your head elevated to try and drain your face. But yeah, the anti-inflammatories are a game changer. So anyone that's trying to recover from any sort of assault or trauma, take a handful of anti-inflammatories for a few days and you'll be a lot better. It took my nose 4 weeks to heal, so they told me it was going to take 4 weeks, and then I didn't get punched there for maybe 6. And I was a bit nervous of it the first few times I got hit. It was sore. And since then, I actually had another x-ray like a few weeks ago, and the nose is actually still broken. So, like, the two bones never joined, but they said that that's healed. That's fine. So yeah, the nose was the big thing, and then the rest of your body is fine. You're sore for a few days, but, like, I was on my world tour after winning the belt. It didn't matter who shite to me. I could have been injured for 3 months. I was doing so much celebrating and homecomings, and the Irish nationals were on, and I was doing loads of interviews. So, do you know what? It didn't really matter. I got back to the gym when I could, when it was reasonable to train with the nose. And yeah, it was good timing to be injured.
What was that homecoming like? Because, like, obviously, if people don't know, you're obviously massively involved with the kids, I suppose, training MMA in Ireland and going out representing Ireland and different things, as well as in your own gym. And we saw some of the videos and the pictures and stuff, you arriving back home. That must have been just fantastic. And it's a little bit better when it's kids too, because they roar and shout a little bit more, and go mad and everything like that. It must. Do you know what I thought it was like? Do you know when you bring you win a cup in hurling or football or something, you bring it back into the school and everyone is cheering. It felt a little bit like that. That must have been just fantastic.
Yeah, and, like, it's a bit different for me than, like, when you see, like, the county footballers come into the town and all the kids are surrounding them and whatever. But I'm with those kids day in, day out. So, like, they're my friends, like, more so than their parents. Like, some of their parents I would be close to the fighter kids' parents, because we're constantly gone away with them and stuff. We'd see a lot of them regularly, but most of the parents in the gym, I'd find it hard to remember all their names. So even though all the parents were there, they wouldn't all, I wouldn't have a close relationship with all of them, whereas the kids, I would. So, the kids were so shocked and surprised and happy. And, I'm Coach Danny, like, who's usually giving out and, doing silly games in the gym or whatever it is. And now, like, I kind of turned into someone else for a lot of them. They thought they couldn't believe like what they had seen, because a lot of them had watched it. And, that was cool. Like, it was cool coming back and just seeing the kids, and hopefully having inspired some of them that, this can happen from Mullingar, like that, you can do this. So yeah, it was so cool, the homecoming. The only negative I'd say is you should have seen the amount of food they brought for me. Like, it was shocking. My fridge was full of cakes for about a month after, and I got the heaviest after that fight than any fight ever, and I totally put it down to that bloody homecoming. So next homecoming, I'm going to have to put some limitations on it, if there is one, that maybe a bit of fruit along with all the cake.
No, it's 7 months anyway since the last fight, so it's fine now at this time. The last thing about that night, and it's weird because I was watching back the Karolina fight, and who was in your corner for that fight with Paddy Houlihan, which was kind of which was kind of mad to me. I never realised that before, and obviously he was there with Shauna, who kind of turned into your rival there for a while, and that's kind of happily ended now, I think, for most people. That must have been great as well, just to see them there cheering you on and the Irish flags, and like and also coming to the next fight, that's probably a thing you're going to have a lot of as well, going to Boston with a lot of the Irish people. But to have Paddy and Shauna there cheering you on, it must have been great.
Yeah, like, I actually said it to Paddy after the fight. He came over and like was so happy for me, and I said to him, like, "Oh, do you remember cornering me in England against that Polish girl, Karolina?" And he hadn't put two and two together that she was fighting the same night as that. So yeah, I didn't know whether I'd be fighting her now. So like, I haven't spoken to him since that I'm now rematching her, but it's such a small, we're such a small country, and it's such a small world. And Paddy was an SPG at the time, and he often went away at weekends and cornered us, because we were the amateurs back then. Me and Kieran Clark fought on that card on UKFC, and I think Sam was there as well, who's now retired, and I'm not sure who else was there. She's Elliot or something. Maybe he was fighting, maybe he wasn't. And Elliot has his own bloody gym now out in Geneva. So like, these small group of people from my time, like, I'm not from the original time, from the first wave, as they call it, whatever. Like, we're the second wave, and then now is the third wave. So those second wave people, where Paddy was still there and Aisling was still there in the gym and stuff. It's mad to think now I'm coming towards where they were at that point, and it's just crazy. Like, it's mad, but that's the country we're in, where it's a handful of gyms, it's the same people. Like, I seen Andy Ryan and John got awarded at the BJJ Ireland competition last weekend, I think it was, or the weekend before, for having such an outstanding impact on BJJ in Ireland. And it's mad to think they were the two first lads at it, and everybody else that's come out of Ireland, or every gym that's grown from there, has come from Andy Ryan or has come from John. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I think pretty much everyone that's worth talking about has come from them. So yeah, it is mad to think of it, that we probably should all be friends in this country and not have any rivalries, because we are all interlinked, whether we like it or not.
Honestly, I think it's getting a bit better. And maybe the only ones, like the lads up north, Rodney and the FAI, maybe they're the only ones that are kind of not connected, but like the lad SPG Cork and all them, as you said, it's all connected. But I feel like it is getting a little bit better. And, I think people that have been around the scene for a long time don't really like the whole rivalries and everything like that. They'd rather, train together and prepare together and then go and fight other people. But I just on that as well, on like women's MMA in Ireland, it feels like, and then you'll know about this more than most people in terms of like the young girls coming up fighting today. It feels like it's just rocket shipped in the last few years with yourself and Shauna and Leah and Sinead and obviously Dee fighting. You know, we've Katie Sol training with you as well, obviously coming over from Canada after likes of Aisling and Catherine Costigan. There's probably a few more I'm forgetting of, and you know, a few years ago there wouldn't be a few more you'd be forgetting of, you know. And it seems like it's such a great time for women's MMA in Ireland now. It must be great for you, even just like to have people to train with, you know, around your same size and everything like that to prepare. It's really taken off over the last few years and getting better by all accounts.
Yeah, like I'm really lucky being an SBG because people come to SBG and join. You know, I don't know why the girls are joining. Are they joining because of John, because of Connor, because they see pictures of loads of girls there, whatever it is. But any gym that's got like a decent pro team has got its own group of girl fighters around. You know, like you see Great Britain top team there, they have like the similar numbers to what John has. So the girls are kind of grouping together in these bigger gyms, or that's the way I'm experiencing it anyway. And then of course the regional gyms have a handful of girls in each one too, which is amazing. But like when I started in John's, Aisling Daly was there, but she was nearly ready to retire, and Sinead was there. And to get on the pro team, I had to spar Sinead. That was how it went. And like, I'm a strawweight and she's a featherweight. And I remember her telling me in the bathroom before we went out, she's like, don't worry, I won't go too hard. And I was like, okay. But like, I didn't know who she was back then. And in fairness to her, she didn't. But now I'd never spar Sinead. I wouldn't have to, because we're 3 weight divisions different. It's so great to have people your own size and get to feel like you're good. That's the difference. Back then, I lost every single round, every single day. If I won, I tell this to Alan all the time, if I won a round back then when it was me and Sinead and Aisling, if I won a round back then, it's because someone was sick or injured. That was it. That they were having a really bad day and I might have won a round. And that was it. That was for 2 years, I'd say. And then after 2 years, in comes Dee and Katie kind of simultaneously, and a handful of other girls that are still with us now at the moment. But other girls came and went, like didn't continue on to be pros or whatever, or retired early. So now I go into the gym and the amount of rounds I can win is shocking, you know, compared to like 1 every 3 months. Now I can win rounds every day, you know, it's great. So yeah, there's a lot to be said about training with lads and losing and having the hard road. And then there's a lot to be said about winning. And I see that with my girls in Relentless. The 2 oldest girls had used all the other kids as pawns and got unreal at doing submissions. So they've got some serious, dangerous guards, like triangles, arm bars. In minutes they're in mount, they have an arm bar straight away. And they can do that now on high-level girls at international level because they got to win as well. So, I think I've gone on a big tangent here, but winning and losing is important, and having loads of women around means you've better chance of winning rounds too.
It's good though, because like, I'm sure the hardship of the early days helped you, and the ability now to, you know, use what you learned there against people of a similar level, the level that you've reached is helping you these days. So I suppose it's a double-edged sword that's positive on both ends, I suppose. So that's a good thing. You mentioned Connor there as well, and I know he's come on and sponsored you for this fight. And as you know, as you said, you're someone from maybe the second wave. It must be great as well to have, like, you know, I suppose, the support of the first wave. Obviously, that was led by Connor coming on as well, and have him sponsoring you for this.
Yeah, like it's unreal. Like, you know, I think Connor was getting ready to fight Nate Diaz or something when I joined the gym, and you know, he was around a lot more back then. Now he's a billionaire and a massive entrepreneur, and we don't see him as much, but we definitely do still see him in the gym. And since I started fighting in Bellator, he really got in on supporting me. So he knew me from around the gym, but then it was when he seen me a few nights fighting in Bellator when he went that you know, he really took on to support me, and he'd send me messages and wishing me luck and whatever it is. And Anyway, yeah. So after March, he texted me after the fight and said that it was unreal or whatever. He said congratulations, and he said I'd love to get you on the team, meaning get sponsored. So it just took a good while to get it over the line because Conor had okayed it and I knew it was going to happen, but then there's like a lot of lads in suits in the middle that you have to get through.
Oh, I know, believe me.
If it was down to Conor, I think he'd just pull out his wallet and like throw you whatever it was you're getting, but that it has to all go through management and through the companies and whatever. But we got there in the end. Like I was promised that deal back in March, so I was just kind of not wanting to pry too much, but then kind of pried towards the end, and I was getting so close to this fight.
It's great to have that support, and I think it's fair play to Conor. I think a lot of people have called for that for a lot of years to and he always has supported the fighters, but a sponsorship or something like that, and fair play to him for doing that. Before we just move into Karolina, and I suppose it could be after Karolina as well, like the UFC, everyone when you won the last fight was like, okay, Danny's now another name that we should be talking about as someone who's gone to the UFC. And we've had, say, the likes of Reece McKee, we've had Kiefer and a few more who've gone since. What is the situation with the UFC? And I know, there's that general sense you have to be undefeated and you have to be available and you have to not be a champion type of thing as well in some organizations. What is it for you? I know it's always been the goal, even when you were in Bellator and, you were undefeated there. The goal was almost to get to the UFC. Did anything happen since the last fight in terms of the UFC, and in the future, what do you think is the situation with the UFC?
Yeah, like I was told before that fight that I probably needed to win and then I needed to defend my title once. That's what I was told by management. That was like the likelihood of what was going to happen. But then when I won, I kind of got excited, and so did everyone around me, including my manager, and we really pushed for it. And I was in a contract with Invicta, so I would have had to get released. And I wasn't allowed to go on the Contender Series. And there was some chat back and forth with the UFC from my people to them. And, they were saying that there was the roadblocks where it was the contract, but then they were also saying, well, she needs to be finishing fights, this kind of thing. So that went on for probably far too long. Like it went on a long time, and I was getting really sucked into it, and I got really disheartened by it all, to be honest. I was just felt like I'm not good enough and they don't want me. And I know Brad Katona talks about it all the time. You start watching like every strawweight fight and you're like, that one's fucking useless. And like I like watch them when Alan's not here, and I save them up for when he comes back, and I'm like, you have to sit down and watch these two, they're fucking shite. Like it's not even like useful what you're doing, you're literally just wanting to hate on them. So I seen loads of girls getting signed for the Contender or signed for the UFC, and I started getting like obsessed with like, this fucker got in from Brazil and she's fought no one, and she's had losses as well, and she's not even a finisher. And I started sending all the topologies to John and to Dave, and you just become a green-eyed monster with it all, to be honest, because honestly they are who they are. It's not a sacred place up in the fucking sky being in the UFC. I'm not stupid now. Maybe a few years ago I didn't really know, the pay structure and the way things go in all fight promotions. It's not just the UFC. So I don't see it as this like magical palace that you need to get into and then everything's going to be okay. I see it for what it is. And I've come to terms with the fact that I'm pretty good. I fought pretty good people. I'm the Invicta champion. And they went, nah, maybe not now. Maybe we'll get you next time. And you know what? That's fine. If that's what they want to do, then I have to be okay with that. And I am. And being bitter and whatever, looking down on everyone else that gets in isn't going to make that situation any better. So, you know what? We'll see what happens. I've said after this fight, I'm going to give it 2 weeks headspace, 2 weeks of like, am I getting into UFC now or not? And then I'm going to leave it to the businessmen, to my manager and to John, and let them decide what's happening, because it'll just consume your every day. Like, I remember one point I even rang Paul Hughes, so I did, and I like texted him. I was like, "Can you send me your number?" And he's like, "Okay." And like, I never spoke to Paul Hughes in my life. I've never even met him in person. And I rang him and I was like, "What is going on?" And I was like, "Do they not like Paradigm?" I was like, "Is it to do with our management? Because why are we left out?" I was like, "What's wrong with us?" And I was pure conspiracy theory, and he was the voice of reason. And I think he's a lot younger than me. How old is he?
Yeah, he's in his mid-20s, I think, yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake. When I'm like 33 and like having a fanny attack at him on the phone, and he's like, have you ever read the book, The Obstacle's the Way? Like, this is the kind of stuff he's talking to me about. And he's like, if you know
Paul, all right, yeah.
I was like, oh, I can't believe I'm getting talked up to by this young fella. But yeah, he just said that your path is your path, and that if you've done it the right way and you fought the right people, that when you get in there, you are where you're meant to be. And he said, it will happen, kind of thing. And he didn't think there was any conspiracy. He was more relaxed about it. So yeah, anyway, that was kind of what went on with all of that. And look, it is what it is. And I've got to fight Karolina. I've got to win. I've got to finish. And then I give myself the best possible chance of them wanting to take me. But if they don't want me, I want myself. I know I'm pretty good anyway. So it is what it is.
Yeah, I feel it's very interesting because, like, obviously having spoken to Paul and other people as well, it feels like yourself and Paul had a very similar. Well, Paul just fought, but the fight before that, when you were in the same situation, you went in there and you won a decision, and Paul absolutely destroyed Wojcik, and you came through a war and won it. So a similar type of like epic win, and it feels like if you'd been losing the fight and got a knockout in the second round or something, you would have more chance of getting signed for the UFC, because they're just looking at like, oh, they won by knockout, that's what we want, type of thing, which is just wild, because that doesn't take in the quality of the opponent or anything else, which to me makes no sense. Like the likes of Valeska Machado, likes of Jordan Wojcik, they're top level opponents for someone trying to get to the UFC, and if you're beating them, you're good enough to be in the UFC, in my opinion anyway. And I think that's the way it's going. But it's it's crazy.
Like, there's one other thing with women as well, like that Paul probably doesn't have to contend with this, but like, I might be totally conspiracy theory in here, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist at all, but I see the women, a lot of the women that get a chance, it's good looking women, good looking young women with loads of followers, and like especially the Brazilians. I'm like, fuck me, like she's got like 70,000 followers and she has had 4 fights and she's fought nobody, and there she is. Then in she goes. Like the atomweight champion of Invicta just got signed. Now I knew that was happening for months because Invicta had told me, but she's the atomweight champion moving up to strawweight. She won a 5-round decision. She fought once to win the belt, exact same as me. She's not even a strawweight, but she's beautiful, and she's Brazilian, and she's shit tons of followers, and that is like a bit of a kick in the teeth. You're like, come on, like at least Paul doesn't have to deal with the good-looking lads. But I don't know, maybe he does. Maybe they take.
He's a good-looking man. Like, to be fairness, Paul's a good-looking man.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know where I'm going with that, but yeah, it is a bit annoying. We're both of us. Well, look, Paul's ahead of me now. Like, geez, what Paul did at the weekend, fucking hell. I was expecting like he should be getting a contract on Monday morning, but like I know the UFC don't work like that, and they're not into like we need you. They're into you need us. So they could string that out for another while yet. He might just get jumped on like you think he would. But God, what he did at the weekend really inspired me. I was thinking like, you know what, if I can do what he did and get my finish, and then we're the final 2 people that everyone was saying supposed to have got in. Imagine if both of us got in before Christmas, having to go the hard road. It'd be really cool. But look, he's done his part, so I need to try and do my part now.
Indeed, and that part is obviously fighting Karolina Wojcik, who, as we mentioned earlier, you fought before in your early amateur days, but it was a Danny Nealon fight at the time, but it was a Danny McCormack fight still, though. And you went in there and you were throwing everything at her. It was a great fight. Like, I was sitting down to do. I was looking and went to a decision and came. It was 9 minutes, wasn't it? It was 3-minute rounds. I was like, yeah, okay, we're going to sit in, and then I was like 2 minutes in. Oh shit, this is not what I was expecting. An absolute war altogether. I would think for you, you'd almost look back at that fight before you have to fight her again as a great learning fight. You went in there and you went to war with someone early in your career, and you proved that you can go to war with someone. And obviously you've proven that many times since. But when you look back at that fight now, does it take maybe a different look, or have you even looked at that fight going into this one? Does it make any difference?
Yeah, I had to look at it because I looked at her last few fights and I was fucking bored. So I had to look at it to like motivate myself and be like, look, that's how she bet you. So you need to be better. But I remember in that fight knowing she didn't want it. She didn't want to fight me. Like, she wanted to go backwards and she wanted me to stay the fuck away from her, and she wanted the bell to go. I could see that in her face. And I never forget that. And I remember thinking after, isn't it mad people are scared of you? Like, I used to think it was mad that people were scared of me. Like, but I could see that she was scared of me, and she didn't want me to come at her. And I don't think she's changed. I think that's going to be the same the next time. But the only thing that has changed is I'm more understanding of striking, and I'm a hell of a grappler now. And I really didn't have the confidence to grapple back then. I didn't think I was a hell of a grappler because I was flat out getting submitted in the gym by lads. So, she's going to get grappled now, but I never forget her face. And I've seen it on many girls' faces since then. For some reason, pressure and tiredness makes people make a face back at you that's like, just fuck off, back off, like, stop at me. And she gave me that, and I know I can get that out of her again, next week.
How big is it to add in the grappling to a fight like that, where like you're fighting a pressure fight and you're landing your shots, she's landing her shots, but if you can get the takedown and take away her ability to land shots and you're the only one landing it, that must be a massive thing to add into a game like your game, which is a largely, pressure put you, on the back foot type of game, which you did for basically the whole fight. In that fight, you put her on the back foot. That must be brilliant to have that, I suppose, in your not your back pocket, but as part of the plan A, I suppose, going into this one.
Yeah, like, I know in the gym what I can do versus what I've actually done in fights. It usually takes me to like get put up against the wall, get hurt, and then I'm like, oh shit, I better do what I do in the gym when I'm in fights. But I just don't feel like that for this fight. I feel like I'm a different person now, and I just feel so confident. Like, when you're a grappler and you're not afraid of being grappled at all, if she shoots at me, great, delighted. And if she tries to knock me out, it is what it is. I'm not scared of getting hit at all. I'm only afraid of losing. So, if she doesn't want to come forward and she wants to run away, well, then it's easy to throw punches and get a takedown. And if she wants to come at me and try and knock me out, well, it's easy to get a takedown. So that's the way it's been in the gym, the last 9 weeks. That's the way I see it. If there's too much action happening on the feet and that we've been striking for more than 30 seconds, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to take you down. If you get a little bit happy, think you're landing some punches, you throw that backhand, you're sitting on your fucking arse. And it's been like that. And it was like that for years in the gym. And I just wasn't translating that into fights. I get into fights and I think it was like a different baby than what was happening in the gym. But like, I think I'm different now, and I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. It's going to be a lot of fucking takedowns. And to be quite honest, the very best version of me gets her down straight off the bat in the first round. And I just need to get into mount. If I get into mount, the fight's over. We're done. I know it. I just know it. So I'm not silly enough to do stupid things either. I'm ready for 25 minutes if I got to do it. But solid takedowns in the first round. I'd be surprised if we see a second, and if we do, I don't think we'll see any more after that.
What way do you think she'll fight? Because as you kind of alluded to there, in her more recent fights, she has been kind of pushing people against the cage, holding them there, trying, being more of a controlled fighter. Against you, she was kind of backing up and countering, and some of her other early fights, she was more of an attacking, fighter who tried to strike with people. They even said in the commentary on yours, is the first time we've ever seen her backing up. Do you think she's completely changed into a fighter who wants to have a more controlled fight, or do you think because she's fighting you, she will kind of revert back to what she was doing there and trying to land maybe those big counter strikes as you attack her?
She's going to go back and move off. That's what she does. She goes backwards and she moves off to her right, and she goes back and she moves off to her right, and she beckons you on, and then she'll try and land a punch. And if you don't come on and you stand there, then she might throw 2 or 3 silly punches going forward. But this thing of clinching and pushing people against the fence, she's never done that to a grappler. She does that to girls that she thinks she's going to get hurt by. So she ain't going to push me against the fence. She isn't going to dream of it. And if she does, it's going to make it even easier for me to get my takedown. She's engaged in that. So she's going to come in and think, I just need to plant my feet and I need to hit her really hard and I'll drop her. And then I'll jump on top of the cage and celebrate and it's all over. Honestly think that's what she thinks. And if I'm not coming forward or there isn't a lot of action, she might try and flurry and that's it. But I haven't been impressed by her the last few fights at all. But every time people fight me, I always see the best version of them. I think I see a better version than what I seen when I watch them on YouTube, that they're ready for like this hard night, and they train like that and they prepare like that. So I'm not going to get overconfident, I'm not going to do anything silly, but I honestly don't think she's on my level, and it's time to get my own back.
I can't wait for Danni. Invicta FC 54. It's Friday night, isn't it? The 27th coming up. I really can't wait for it. With the win, I think the UFC has to be the next call, and I know it can't be always the goal because you can't be thinking about it that way, but I think anyone with a brain knows that should be the next thing. So best of luck, Danni, and I can't wait to see the fight. Thanks very much.
Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.